Say hello to Tony Vaughan, shall we? The Labour MP for Folkestone Hythe and Romney Marsh and chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on China. Tony, good evening.
Evening, Kate.
Tell us about your position and Keir Starmer. What is best for the party?
Well, I hugely respect the Prime Minister. He led us into a historic election win, and there are many, many achievements of this Labour government to be proud of. We renationalised the railways, we passed the Renters' Rights Act and banning no-fault evictions, we've strengthened employment rights. But I completely agree with the Prime Minister's own acceptance that incrementalism won't work anymore. All of those things moved the dial in the right direction. But what I heard on the doorsteps over the last few weeks, all over the southeast, was a sense of dissatisfaction, not just with the pace of change, but the mistakes that have been made by the government that I think the Prime Minister accepts. But we've got to the point when we see those local election results that we've faced, that something has to change, that the people aren't listening anymore. And if we're going to win that second term in 2029, which is absolutely essential to be able to have a decade of national renewal that we need to fix what the Tories broke, we're going to have to get our house in order so that we have the best chance of winning that election. And I believe, and I believed it before the speech, and I believe it even more after, that Keir Starmer, unfortunately, notwithstanding everything he's done for the Labour movement, it's time to step aside and to announce a departure for an orderly transition of leadership.
And how would you like him to step aside? Would you like to see him go immediately? Do you back the plan that there should be an orderly transition? Catherine West, the Labour MP, who has to be said probably sparked this off, has said she wants to see a new Prime Minister by September. What is your view?
Well, we do need a democratic contest involving our most talented leaders from across the Labour movement.
But when do you need to see that, Tony?
Well, I think September's a possible time frame. I mean, what I said on social media over the last few days is that it has to happen before the local elections next year. We have local elections in Kent, and we cannot be in a situation where we have the same issues coming up on the doorstep, which are really, in some ways, harking back to early mistakes like the winter fuel. But these are frustrations that are genuinely felt. And so I think it's got to happen well before that. September might be an appropriate benchmark. But the point I was going to make is that it's critical that the best that we have, our best players, are essentially on the pitch at the time that leadership election happens.
Tony, this is a really perilous time for the government, and what a disaster when we've got the King's speech in a couple of days and the King expected to have to say, my government will do X or Y, and no one quite knows what the makeup of that government's going to be. The timing is horrendous, surely.
I get those frustrations, and that'll be one reason to stick with the status quo. But we've got to the point where, unfortunately, this is an existential moment for the Labour Party. Those local election results cannot be sugarcoated. They were some of the worst in history for the Labour Party, and we have to look at why that was. And so we can't, if we were to simply toddle along and pretend that the problems that led to those results, which are particularly were the mistakes that have been made that kept coming up on the doorstep around winter fuel, about Mandelson, decisions around Gaza, a whole host of things. If essentially the messenger that you have to lead that movement has the problems, is the personification of those problems, we've got a big problem. And so I totally understand those who will say, this is going to cause some chaos, frankly, in the interim. But it's necessary, frankly, because we have to get our house in order. Because 2029 is what we all have to focus on. And unless we get our house in order before then, we're going to lose then. And we may well have a lot worse to come next year in May if we stick on the current trajectory.
What do you make of the Prime Minister's insistence that he will stay? And if there is a challenge, he will fight it. He said today in his speech, nobody's got the right to walk away at this present time. He sees it as his responsibility to set things right. That is a noble approach, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And it's a creditable approach, and it shows that he's a man of principle, and all of the good things that are Keir Starmer, I see those reflecting those comments. However, we need to, as a Labour movement, as a Labour Party, recognise that it is the Labour Party who will be delivering, if we get a second term, on the things that we need to deliver to fix the 14 years of Tory chaos. It's highly unlikely that Keir Starmer is going to be that person, just looking at this realistically. And so while Keir is an ambitious leader, and he wouldn't have gotten to this point if he wasn't highly ambitious, I think we have reached the point where, looking at what happened in the local election results, that tells you all you need to know about whether or not continuing on is a good idea for the Labour Party and for the working people who we are here to represent. And I think the best thing to do is recognise that a whole lot of good stuff has been done. Hugely respect the Prime Minister for that election win, for the work he has done for the Labour movement. To bring us back, frankly, from the precipice that we were facing in 2019 is nothing short of extraordinary. But now is the time to accept that he needs to move on, because it is the future of the Labour movement. And frankly, the ability of Labour to keep out of reform government, that is our responsibility now. And that is what I'm concerned about my constituents, but I'm also concerned about our ability to keep reform out. And that has to be something that is at the forefront of everybody's mind. It's not personal ambition alone.
Tony, can I ask, do you feel a bit frustrated or even disappointed that there hasn't been a better sort of movement of your colleagues, and particularly from the cabinet, to actually encourage Keir Starmer to go quickly? Do you feel frustrated at all? Because we've had this sort of slight pantomime over the weekend where then everything was being pegged to a speech, which we all quite frankly knew that there have been plenty of speeches, plenty of resets. Almost sort of people were ridiculing Sir Keir Starmer before he even started today.
It was all about having a new direction, except for there was no detail really on new direction. Much of it had been announced or mooted before, hadn't it, really?
And generally, how often do speeches really save anybody? What really could be done given the poll rating? So do you feel frustrated that, perhaps some of your colleagues should have got themselves in order and acted a bit more decisively? Because this awful drawn out sort of bingo of who it is that's gonna sort of come out against the Prime Minister is pretty unedifying, isn't it?
I mean, look, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm a lowly backbencher. I'm trying to argue for what I believe is the right thing. I'm sure that there are conversations happening behind the scenes. I don't know the detail of any of them, frankly, but I think that if there has been some reticence, I think it probably reflects the loyalty and the respect that a lot of people feel towards Keir Starmer for all the reasons I've just given about the historic election win, turning the party around and all that. That is all real. And I think that may well be driving, if there is reticence, I don't know if there is, but if there is, then it may be that is part of the mix. But I think the numbers of people that we're seeing coming out expressing a view that the Prime Minister should set a timetable for an orderly transition tells us something about the mood of the party. And I'm sure that the number of people that Kate said at the start who had declared their view that Keir should set a timetable for departing will not stop there, because the number of people I've spoken to who share that view is it speaks for itself.
I mean, the latest figures I've got, courtesy of Labour List, are that 67 are calling for the PM to resign or timetable a departure. 81 have said that they're backing the PM. I mean, obviously he has cabinet ministers, factored into that 81, but it's just interesting to look at the numbers. I mean, for you personally, Tony, you've come out and said Keir Starmer needs to go. That is a risk for you to take personally, isn't it, if Keir Starmer stays, which, as we've discussed, he's promised to do. So you must be pretty confident that he's going to go.
I've just said what I believe. And I think that is my constitutional duty. And I'm saying what I believe is right for my constituents, what I believe is right for the Labour Party, and what I believe is right to put us in the best position to fight reform. I do not believe... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, what if Keir Starmer stays? Now that you've come out and said he effectively needs to set a timetable for his departure, what if Keir Starmer stays? What kind of position does that put you in? Will you have to step aside?
Well, I don't have anything to step aside from. I was elected by the people of Folkestone High to be their voice in Parliament, and that is the constitutional duty that I need to fulfil for the term of this Parliament.
But you're also a Labour MP, and your boss, the big man in charge, is someone who you've said that you don't have any confidence in because you've called for him to go. And so therefore, yes, you are looking after your local constituents, but you're effectively saying that you don't believe in the leadership of the party that you represent.
I am saying that, and I'm saying it because I have the interests of the Labour Party and the Labour movement at heart. This is fundamental. This is existential for us, and so I think who if you have an opinion about this stuff, you have to say it. And I think it's important that people do say what their opinion
Even
is.
though you're asking your constituents to vote for you and to stay with you, you having said that you don't believe in the leader of the party, the prime minister of the country, the guy leading the government, of course, what government do echoes around your constituents. So you think that you still have a mandate to stay on if Keir Starmer remains?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been having surgeries recently where I've got constituents turning up who can't get social housing because the local council, despite them being homeless, they can't get a house, and that's because we don't have enough social housing. We need more policies that force local councils or empower them to acquire housing stock so that we can reduce this kind of problem. That is something that needs to happen. That's something I would be arguing for in the context of any person that wants to stand for the leadership. And it's those questions. When Keir said that incrementalism won't cut anymore, it's exactly those kind of issues that we're talking about, where it really is hurting people on the ground.
Yeah.
The same goes for so many different
policy. Well, it's a bonkers
areas.
thing for him to say because it suggests that everything so far has been at incremental stages. But just to repeat...
I don't believe that is right.
Well,
but there is a general
but look,
sense
let's just finish on this. That if there is a leadership contest, and if it is to happen by September, that is going to paralyse any work the government does. So you talk about the importance of social housing to your constituents. Policy will slow down. We saw it at the end of the Conservative government, and it will happen here if there is a change of leader. And you are prepared, again, to take that gamble, to basically see a frozen system while the leader is sorted out for the good of the party in the long term?
I don't think things are going to be frozen. And just to clarify, I don't think that this is primarily about the party. It's about the country. It's about turning round 14 years of Tory failure and correcting the systemic injustices and the fact that the system is rigged against working people right across society. And it's that anger that I'm hearing on the doorstep. It is that problem that we have to fix, or we're just irrelevant. We have to have answers to that. And so we do need to reset. We do need to change the direction of this party, of what we're seeking to achieve, if we are to have any relevance going forward, because people have serious problems that need to be fixed. And those are the problems that I fundamentally want us to address. And we're going to have to change the leader to do that.
Tony, thanks for being with us. Appreciate your time. Tony Vaughan, who's Labour MP for Folkestone, Hythe and Romney Marsh. Good to have you with us. Joe will digest